है मैम, बिकॉज मैम आपका सामने बैठना, आपका साक्षात सामने होना, वो अपने आप में ही एक ज्ञान का पूरा एक
Mm, mm,
सागर है.
mm, mm.
So it's
Let's begin.
alright. So now just starting it. So a very warm welcome and a very good evening to everyone. We welcome you once again to Vestralex free online community classes on law. This is your initiative by you, for you, and possible only through the generous contribution of our seniors, guides, mentors. And today we have in that line one of how would I say the one of the most fundamental persons in my life who have had guided me towards the direction of law, who have showed me what exactly is legal language, what exactly is law, how is it constituted, every breaking every single word down, understanding what are the nuances. That is the one and only Professor Dr. Anju Vali Tikoo, ma'am. She is my personal mentor guide and my first teacher of law, and she is also today at the most honorary position of the Dean of Faculty of Law, Delhi University. Everyone knows it because I know how many of my friends who were there at when I got admission, they gave so many repeat entrances to get into that one particular institution. The kind of value, the kind of merit it holds, it's unmatchable. Tiku ma'am, most humbly, the warmest of welcome to you. Uh, and thank you, ma'am, first of all, for not just on my behalf, not just on behalf of the participants today, but on behalf of the entire legacy that you carry forward, ma'am. And they're absolutely on the best shoulders right now. Ma'am, thank you also for taking this opportunity to guide us with this most important topic of balancing professional and personal life. And I request you, ma'am, to kindly take us forward.
Thank you, Kesha, for those wonderful words. But I just do not know from where I am going to begin and where I am going to just pause myself. Because the very essence of the topic that you have put across, it was just in a conversation that we decided that no, we are not talking about any core law subject. Instead, we would be talking about everyday life, wherein we struggle to find out a base so that we are at peace with our own selves. Each one of us has that understanding and aspiration primarily that we need to make do good. हर कोई आगे बढ़ना चाहता है, अच्छा करना चाहता है, अच्छे से जीवन व्यतीत करना चाहता है. But then there is a struggle. As you rightly pointed out, that there are lot many of our young students and passing out students who find it difficult to sustain themselves in uh, profession. But I would just begin by saying that the moment you said that breaking down every word of the law provision is what you learned here, I believe we also need to learn from at least faculty of law that our existence is dependent not purely on our individual effort but also a collective effort. The entire cosmos plays a crucial role on our existence, and that's where we need to be aware and conscious about what we are doing and what we are not doing. Today, you have asked me to talk about balancing personal and professional life. To begin with, when we do law, and primarily I understand that the audience or this particular conversation is meant for people from the stream of law. So those of us who are doing law, they may have different reasons, but somewhere or the other, at the back of our mind is that we need to pursue law, and it is primarily to begin with as a source of livelihood. But it's not everybody's calling that we get into lawyering. We do teach here how to interpret, and that is what law is all about. That how do we interpret the words, the statements, the sentences, and the emotions which are along also. are really important because there are only three words, and I used to really love my jurisprudence classes over and above, of course, the criminal law classes. When we say that I love you, so the context is important, who is saying to whom and with how much intensity. The same words can be used negatively also, sarcastically also. तो हिंदी जो हमारी भाषा है इस वाले बेल्ट में, उसका एक अपना ही आयाम है। तो आपके जितना भी आपका मोह है, जितनी आपकी भाव हैं, सारे कम्युनिकेट हो जाते हैं आपके लहजे से, आपके शब्दों से। सो हम हमेशा ये कहते हैं, एंड दैट इज व्हाट आई वुड आल्सो अर्ज अपॉन ईच वन ऑफ यू, that despite the critical, difficult times, we need to hold our emotions back. And somebody has rightly pointed out that somebody spoken is much more lethal than actually hurting somebody with a sword or a lathi, because the relationship breaks, the connect breaks, and it takes years together. वो कहते हैं धागा टूटता है ना, तो आप उसको जोड़ेंगे तो गांठ पड़ती है, वो स्मूथनेस नहीं आती है। सो there are moments in each one of us life wherein we are going through a turbulent time because of maybe external factors and then internal impact also, but then we need to take care of our language. So please bear in mind, wherever you are, whichever place you are, at whatever time of life, do control your language. That's one point that we need to underscore, और इसका हमेशा ध्यान रखिए. Now, getting on to balancing personal and professional life. When we say personal life, each one of us as a human being is desirous individual. We all wish lot many things. Lot many wishes come true, others don't. So what are we expected to do? Should we always run after our wishes? And I would want you people to distinguish between need and desire. So, whatever is needed, is required. But whatever is desired may not necessarily be needed. And if it is not needed, think and convince yourself that you need to let go that desire. Because in the tussle for getting across to and acquiring that ultimate maybe or the intermittent goal that you have put yourself for, may not be in your best interest, or even if it is in your best interest, so to say, your individual best interest may not be in the interest of the family. So we always need to learn that cost benefit analysis. एक केस मिला है, अब दो चाहिए, अब चार चाहिए, अब 10 चाहिए। स्कूटर है, अब हमें गाड़ी चाहिए, फिर उसके ब्रांड हैं, फिर किस किस्म की सहूलियत चाहिए। So somewhere we need to have that contentment, because please note, even though people who are into profession specifically as litigating lawyers, though there is no age bar, but the fact of the matter remains, the life has an age bar. Family has an age bar, and there is time that you need to contribute towards your family and inner peace. If we keep on struggling and running outwards for fulfilling our social commitments, we need to understand and appreciate that social commitment begins from home. Charity begins from home. तो पहले घर वालों को तो देखो, तो घर वालों की जितनी जरूरतें हैं, जरूरतें नीड बेस्ड, उनको फुलफिल करना is required. No two views on that. And please bear in mind, I'm at that state of my life and stage of my life when I would expect each one of you as my students, or of the age group of Keshav and maybe older, that you certainly need to be responsible towards your parents. We are getting into a society wherein children are flying high, but they do not have time for their parents. Forget about their parents, they do not have time for themselves. And post corona, we have really realized and come across several instances of young lawyers, young professionals, not only lawyers, but professionals too in different streams of law, suffering with lot many medical issues and problems. So where are we heading to? So if withholding oneself little bit and taking care of your health should be not the priority, I believe it should be. वो भाषण देना तो बहुत आसान होता है, लेकिन मेरा काम भाषण देना है अभी, तो मैं आग्रह भी करूंगी और आगाह भी करूंगी कि थोड़ा अपना ध्यान रखिए अपने स्वास्थ्य का। अगर आप अपने स्वास्थ्य का ध्यान नहीं रखेंगे तो another 5 years, 10 years down the line, and now that we realize that life is tough, competition is very strong, we cannot survive and sustain, please figure out how are you going to sustain. And sustenance means there is that whole life cycle and circle. So we are now in a society wherein young professionals during their transition after the college are finding it difficult to get married because they need to have first the basic livelihood, reasonably decent one. And I agree that if there is some amount fixed which ensures social security, livelihood, and at some point of time there was also a direction given by some court, I am afraid, and I confess I just do not remember, wherein they said that interns need to be paid. Young lawyers associated and attached to the seniors need to pay this much amount. I do not know whether seniors are listening to that. And if they are not, then it doesn't make any sense to follow into the footsteps of seniors wherein you are not being paid. And I very consciously and cautiously am using that word, you get exploited. Exploited in the sense that your time, your effort, your health. And each one of these three is not going to come back again. हम कहते हैं पानी बह गया नदी में, lot of water has flown under the bridge. So your efforts, you do not have that health again. सुबह में जो करोगे शाम में नहीं कर सकते हो, एक ही दिन में बहुत फर्क हो जाता है सुबह और शाम में. So this is life. We need to understand how do we sustain it. We need to have a balance, and for that balance we need to convince ourselves. Nobody else is going to convince us. And there is huge power dynamics that we need to be aware of. In every human relationship, there is power regulation, even within our families. And when I say that there is power relation and regulation even within our families, as simple as that, if today you are able to not listen to your parents, that you are coming at 11 or 12 or 1 a.m. in night, I do not know what kind of equation you happen to have back at home. Is it that you tell them plain and simple, मैंने 1 बजे आना है, और it is मामा लेट हो जाएगा या पापा लेट हो जाएगा? So what tone, in what is the kind of equation that you happen to have back at home with your family? Because that is going to sustain. You cannot sustain with outsiders for sure. We all look forward to company. And those of us who think that we need to first settle down and then get married and then we will think about, and then there is that second class of students also, or youngsters also, wherein they say ठीक है शादी हो गई, but we don't want kids, can't afford, don't have time. मुझे बहुत कुछ यहाँ भी देखने सुनने को मिलता है. नाउ दैट वी हैव गॉट, we do have guest faculty and 100 numbers. So I have got that whole range, and we do not have old people here as guest faculty. So my job here is to reach out, to dig in, and find out as to what is going on here and there occasionally in their lives, to tell them that this is the biggest mistake that we are committing. Each one of us needs a support system. That's a fact of life. Nobody can deny that. We do not know what would be our lifespan and for how long we would be able to continue on our own individually. So we need to have that support system, and that support system is family. If we move away from this legal litigating lawyer profession over to any other profession, so 65 years, 70 years, beyond that, what? Even if we think of arbitrators, those of them, the judges who get retired and then move over to different benches and different capacity, 70 साल, 72 साल, उसके बाद भी they need to go back. Somebody has to be there. And post corona, we have realized that each one of us is increasingly needing medical support. And medical support is not only with reference to physical fitness, it is also to do with mental health. We did not hear so frequently the cases of depression, but I am afraid now we are coming across cases of depression too frequently. And depression is primarily because of there is a conflict between what I thought about myself, what I look forward to, what was and what is my aspiration and desire, and that doesn't get fulfilled, so that I am struggling with myself to figure out as to what do I do, and it happens to impact our mental health. Please bear in mind, we are all in that age group. You people specifically, younger generation, not of my age, I am 60 plus. So those of you who are in your 40s and maybe 50s also, you only have one sibling, more or less, exceptions apart. So that's your support system, your family. They look forward to you. And your siblings may also have their own concerns. And now that we have that institution of family breaking down, wherein we just have one kid or we do not have a kid, just think of yourself. Incidentally, I would share with you a reason as to why I am impressing upon too much on family. I did my doctoral thesis on organ transplant. And that was a time I realized that there is that need of family because of the law that was framed, wherein we said near ones could donate organs to their loved ones. So, who was the near one? Family, sibling. Now, if there are parents and only two kids, one daughter and one son, लड़की पर आया था ने, अब लड़का क्या कुछ करेगा? And strangely, within that, I realized, and even today, you will find there are a lot many studies wherein we find that the girls turn out to be the donors and males turn out to be the recipients. So that is our social structure. And even otherwise, forget about that thought process and social structure about patriarchy, which is everywhere across the globe. We cannot think and believe that it's only in India. Everywhere across the globe, you will find the similar scene. But we cannot deny that our civilization, our culture was able to sustain because of our values in our collective existence. Because we continue to believe in the ethos of sharing and caring, that's where we could sustain by sharing our grief and celebrating our joys together. So if we restrict and constrict that group of collective, there would not be that base that can that can withstand the pressure of तूफान जब आता है ना, या फिर ज्वार भाटा जब होता है समुद्र में, when we have the high tide, you need that strong fundamental base to support. That's where we need to understand that there is a requirement of giving time to the family, and it should be a value addition to the family and to our health. When you have kids around in your family in some social function, how do you feel? Do you feel energized? Do you feel enthused? Do you feel light? Do you think about the burdens or the responsibilities that you happen to have? You would still sneak some time out कि नहीं 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 मुझे इसको chocolate दिलाना है और I have to do this thing for the child. So that is what we need to have in our environment. And please bear in mind that बहुत सारी चीजें ऐसी हैं जिनको हम रजिस्टर नहीं करते हैं, रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं करते हैं. In the environment we do have vibrations, and the kind of vibrations we send across, they come back to us. तो जैसा करोगे वैसा भरोगे जो बोला जाता है, और या जो कहा जाता है that whatever you send into the environment you would receive that. और जो कर्म का खेल है, it's nothing else but this only. So be positive in your approach, be optimistic, but then learn to restrain yourself from desires which are not necessarily required. So, moving from one pedestal to another pedestal, you might always find that this is not which is working for you. There's no harm in jumping across to something else and experimenting with something else. As far as Faculty of Law DU is concerned, I believe I need to again point out in today's time we take roughly 9,000, we have roughly 9,600 students in the faculty, only LLB students. And then we have got 5-year law also, wherein we have got two batches, so 240 students there, 121 batch, BLLB and BBLLB. And then we have PhD also, wherein we have got 100 numbers. We have got LLM also. So, not taking into account the LLM and PhD students, as far as LLB students are concerned, 9,500 plus graduating, at least 9,000. जो छोड़ गए या मिडवे छोड़ दिया, बाद में आएंगे या नहीं कर पाए for whatever reasons. Do we think that we have that much of that number of avenues and opportunities available within Delhi? You might get into the stream, but long term, I don't think that is feasible. So we need to be very clear from the very beginning. And when we are talking about decentralization and local is global and global, that is what we need to be prepared about. We do understand that yes, Delhi has an advantage in the sense of the hierarchy of courts, but then at what cost? Huge expenses, cost of life, struggle of life with reference to catching hold of clients, and that those clients are not won over by our opponents. There's no crossover. Sitting here, we do get to know and come across that all this is happening, which is highly unethical, highly immoral, and I won't mince my words and would again caution, would advise, please do not indulge in such kind of practices at any cost at any point of time, because this does impact us as a human being, which we may not be able to see physically, but it does impact us through psychological connect. We are living in a space and that space is utilized by all of us. So, those of us who are contributing positively and those of us who are contributing negatively, there is a struggle and there is a juggle and there is a tug out there in the space which happens to have an impact, so that the entire confidence and trust in the litigating fraternity is also going down. So we need to be careful that what we are where we are heading for. Balancing personal interest, yes, of course, not at the cost of your own interest, but that doesn't mean that you are not clear and plain and truthful to your own self and your client also. Be truthful, because you would find that even if a client at this point of time, if you tell him or her that sorry, there is no case, I'll not be able to, you know it, but then you would not say. And I have come across, though it's really tough, it's really easy to preach, it's tough. I have come across couple of my colleagues who said कि मैंने उसको मना कर दिया था, मेरा मन नहीं माना, उस समय तो चला गया, but after 3.5 years came back कि वकील साहब आप ठीक कह रहे थे. So choice is yours whether you want to be at peace with your own self or you just want to keep on struggling throughout your life, and towards the end, or for that matter, at any point of time during the night when you are about to sleep and you just don't feel like sleeping, नींद नहीं आ रही है, तो कहीं आपको कुछ कचोटता तो नहीं है, something that bothers you that perhaps that was not the right thing to do. Please keep your values and principles, values of course, of dispute resolution, not letting it continue and persist. तारीख पे तारीख वाला हिसाब मत रखिए प्लीज. Any mechanism would not give any dividends unless we are clear as to what we are up to. तो सरकार जितने मर्जी कानून बना ले कुछ नहीं होगा जब तक हम नहीं सुधरेंगे. तो हमें सुधरने की जरूरत है. सुधरना इन द सेंस, लेट्स हैव फोकस. The moment you have focus, you would find necessarily that burden which gets over and over, that comes back again and again, that would reduce. If things are streamlined, then you won't have to fall back again and again on the same case and spend too much of time on a single case. Though this turns out to be a money generating endeavor and venture, but at what cost? I believe I'll stop here, otherwise, I'll go on to another dimension, which some of you may not like. So, I would just ask you if you have any difficult or just a conversation that you want to break open. I'm open to that.
Ma'am, most humbly, I request that you kindly touch that dimension because, ma'am, frankly, it does not matter who feels what because it is you who is saying it and it is anyone who's going to get advantage from it at any point of time. The only reason why we are recording this and putting this on YouTube is simply so that, ma'am, there are so many people who need to benefit in our country. What I understand primarily is that knowledge is in general, it has always been kept very selectively because it is an endeavor, it is a pursuit. A person has to go in its direction and to achieve it and to gain from it. And ma'am, over there, no one can judge, ma'am. And specifically, whatever, please, ma'am, wherever you inhibited yourself, I request you kindly, please, you first, at least give us some idea about that. It'll make us think more.
Kesha, what I believe, instead of getting into that, let's talk about a fact that when we pursue law, there would be lot many illustrations and cases wherein we get into law because we thought perhaps let's do this thing till such time that we happen to get something else. So जो पहले था समा that we used to come into law by default, हालांकि वो हट गया है. Now we are joining law by choice, and having come to law, we start preparing for judiciary. We look forward to doing internships. What is the need of the hour is that those of us who want to sustain in any profession, not necessarily law, we need to realize that until and unless the fundamental concepts are clear, we'll not be able to sustain ourselves. It's here that we should think on the lines of reading. So I emphasize too much on family time, but alongside that, I did also say that we need to take care of our health, both physical and mental. And if we have to sustain in the profession, whichever stream of law, we have to do the reading because law is a dynamic institution and law is for society. So, newer dimensions of human interaction would require newer laws and newer perception to understand the already existing structures and functions of society. Say, for example, if I talk about the cases of dowry death, we are all aware. And we know that there happens to be that provision of cruelty, which is gender specific, still talks about cruelty by the husband and the in laws against and with reference to the bride and the daughter in law. But in today's time, we are also coming across cases wherein men are also suffering. And those of us who were there with me way back in late 90s and early 20s, if they recollect in my classes, I had always been talking that while crossing that ITO bridge, I would come across that तख्ती वो साइड पे उसके ब्रिज के लगा हुआ है, अगर पत्नी सताए तो हमें भी बताएं. तो at that point of time it appeared to be quite amusing. But then at the same time, even though it was amusing, it struck a chord with me that there is some sense. It's not always true that only women suffer, men also suffer. Men suffer doubly because those of them who help out their wives, they're labeled as Joruka Gulam. I understand now lot of lot of change has happened in the perception of the society, but still, uh, whatever you might think of or profess, practically there is a huge difference. And we are still not able to get away with that approach of life. So when I said that we need to read what is happening in our society and what are the kinds of interests which are at stake that we need to address. We have been having lok adalats since ages, 1987 to be very precise. But today's lok adalat and that point of lok adalat, hugely different. So when we are talking about, say, Mahila courts, anybody's wild guess, you people who are there in the profession would know. It's like a Mela there. Just 2 months into marriage or 6 months into marriage. What is this happening? Why is it so happening? So just being financially independent doesn't mean that you do not respect the other person. We need to have that counseling. We need to understand that what is life all about and how do we sustain ourselves. And primarily when we are talking about law as a medium of governance, any one of you who's interested in building of a policy, framing a policy, or working with a think tank, where would this thought come? So if we talk about artificial intelligence, I was just reading just yesterday, the originator, the founder of AI, has given up all his jobs, all his takes, so that he is able to speak up freely. That what are the challenges and where we are heading to. So that is where we need to check ourselves at every point of time, that whatever we are doing, stop, withdraw, think twice that whether we are moving in the right direction. That's where perhaps we would be able to balance the person that we are, what we want to, and find out a way. There's always, we do have GPS whenever we are moving in vehicles, but it does happen that even GPS leads us to a wrong place, and we need to take a U-turn or about turn and then find out our way. There's no harm in accepting and be open to the fact that perhaps wherever you are is not the right place for you. There's no harm. So the moment you realize that this is not the right place for you, be bold and courageous enough to step back. Wherever we have committed a mistake, it's always advisable to accept that yes, this was a mistake. This has happened. This should not happen again. So the moment we are prepared to accept our mistakes and then move forward with an approach to an open, objective discussion and communication, I don't think there is any end to the journey that we want to have or anybody wants to have. It's only where there's that deadlock, where the acceptance is not there, that मैंने कैसे गलती कर दी, हो ही नहीं सकता. When that approach comes in, that's the stumbling block from growth. So each one of us wants to grow and develop. Grow, how? We can grow spiritually, we can grow professionally, we can grow in our intellect, we can grow socially, and we can grow psychologically. So ultimately, even if we talk about an alternative dispute resolution mechanism wherein we are talking about mediation, so for a good counselor, be a patient listener first. You might have n number of reservations, and for that matter I also have got n number of reservations, but I have been able to contain myself in several situations because I tried to control myself, my emotions, contain myself, that no, if I give vent to my feelings there would be a clash. Is this the appropriate moment? Is it required that there should be a clash? Or by just withdrawing a step we can fizzle out the situation and then come back to communication. So all these are learning attitudes as lawyers. And please bear in mind, not only lawyers, each one of us in our life. तो बात जहाँ से शुरू मैंने की थी कि यहाँ पे 9,500 बच्चा आता है, हर कोई दिल्ली में नहीं रह सकता, सस्टेन नहीं कर सकता. Those of them, and it was just the other day, last week, I had one of my own students and alumnus of 2002 to 5 batch with couple of interns and associate and partner. And I just checked with him that what is the status about others who were closely in your coterie. And that was really disheartening to know that only 6 or 7 were there, are there litigating in Delhi. The rest of them have either switched or moved out of Delhi or have totally left law. So if that is the scenario with reference to batch of 2002 2005, now the numbers has already increased. We do understand that disputes have also increased in number, but should we, instead of being lawyers, not turn out to be counselors and mediators and earn our livelihood there also? There's no harm. Why should we not be mediators? We are now talking about mediation as the preferred tool, and you have the Mediation Act also. So when we find ourselves as not being able to enjoy our existence, it is we who is responsible, I who is responsible to find out and figure out what is that I am looking forward to. And for that, we need to unwind ourselves. We need to have clarity about our own selves as to what we want and then move forward. And what I was talking about towards the end of the last phase of this conversation, wherein I said that I might move on to different tangent. Look, power is important, and each one of us, including you and me, exercise that power without knowing and appreciating that whatever we are doing is on account of our self assessment, that what we can do and what we cannot do. आज मैं कुर्सी पे बैठी हूं तो मैं किसी से क्या बात कर सकती हूँ, जब मैं कुर्सी पे नहीं बैठी होंगी या नहीं बैठी थी तब मैं कैसे बात कर सकती थी. That is something natural, but having the power doesn't mean that you indulge in arm twisting. Having the power means that you use the power for the benefit of your own self and the people who come across to you. Facilitate, mediate, and find your ways. Those of them who are there at senior level and have established नाम कमाया है, नाम चलता है. नाम चलने के साथ जो और कुछ भी चलता है ना, वो उचित नहीं है. उसको मत सीखना. Because all said and done, it does come back. And if you think that I am a person of an old ideology, be that as it may, I would advise, still advise, that be clear in your thought process, be clear in your ethical. प्रोफेशनल एथिक्स करते हो ना, हाँ तो एथिक्स का है ई कुछ की नहीं है. वो जो ई बड़ा बड़ा लिखते हैं ना और पी भी बड़ा बड़ा लिखते हैं, दोनों को उतना ही बड़ा बना के रखिएगा अपने जीवन में और सामने रखिएगा, so that the moment you are about to step away from that, that bangs you straight in your head that what are you doing. Because unless you do that, I'm afraid at one or the other point of time in our lives, we happen to run into rough weathers and trouble is there which we do not realize कि क्यों हो रहा है. तो कहीं ना कहीं से तो लौट के आता है. तो जैसा करेंगे वैसा भरेंगे. तो इसलिए बेहतर होगा हम अपने फोकस को रखें that what is the right thing to do. There is a book of Michael Sandel. He is a professor of jurisprudence. उनके YouTube पे भी कई सारे लिंक हैं. तो जरा उसको जहां कहीं मौका मिले छोटा सा ही 15-20 मिनट के लिए देख लिया करिए, पढ़ लें उसको. छोटी सी किताब है, बड़ी नहीं है. And it says what is the right thing to do, because each one of us is talking about justice. So what is the conception and notion of justice? And along with that, if you have forgotten, just read Spellensian Explorer's case again. That there is always a different perception. There is a possibility to look forward to and appreciate certain facts differently. And how do you find your way? So these things, two things you must read, and beyond these two, for sure, whatever you like, whether fiction, or whether some technological advancement, any book, any literature, something to deal with travel and tourism, enjoy your holidays to the full. But then learn a lot about the social interaction, social structures and functions. And I'm emphasizing time and again social structures and functions because law deals with and is there to help out these institutions. संन्यास ले लोगे तो किसी भी चीज की जरूरत नहीं है, मस्त अलमस्त रहोगे. लेकिन अगर सोसाइटी में रह रहे हो तो फिर तो कुछ ना कुछ तो देखना पड़ेगा. थोड़ा देना थोड़ा लेना, तो लो कम दो ज्यादा, लोगों को खुशी और प्रसन्नता और शांति, झगड़े निपटाओ, तो देखो खुद को कितना अच्छा लगेगा. So it's always a give and take whenever we are there in a society, and let's be aware wherever there are two people, there would always be a tussle and conflict of interest, and there would always be an argument. So understand the factual situations clearly, but again, do not at the cost of your health run after money. Well, I'll stop there.
Ma'am, I swear I will come back to that college once again to do my LLB only. I'll repeat simply so that I can learn and study from you, ma'am. It is, ma'am, it
नहीं
is.
केशव, लॉ नहीं पढ़ना है. लॉ नहीं
मैम
पढ़ना
कुछ
है.
भी पढ़ लूंगा मैम, आप बुक
जीवन
रिसाइटेशन आप
पढ़ना
करा
है.
दो मैम, आप जैसे पढ़ते हो ना, अगर बस उतनी चीज सिर्फ एक आपकी क्लास, मेरे ख्याल से अगर देश के सारे बच्चों को मिल जाए ना एक बार अटेंड करने का मौका, आई नो मैम, वो सारे बच्चे ना इतने शानदार वकील मैम, हमें सबसे पहला मैम, यू नॉट बिलीव, लाइक आई थिंक immediately after college I got like matters here and there everywhere, good matters मैम. बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट, दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट, इलाहाबाद हाई कोर्ट, पता नहीं कहाँ मैम, हाई कोर्टों में फाइनल आर्ग्यूमेंट्स हो गए और अच्छे अच्छे हो गए, ऑर्डर आए बढ़िया बढ़िया. ओ क्यों मैम, सारे के सारे सीखा हुआ था आपने. एक तो क्रिमिनल लॉ में आपने इतना इतना इंटरेस्ट आपने जगा दिया, जिस तरीके से आपने उसको पढ़ाया कि उसको अंदर मैम बिल्कुल ढंग से ना, एक एक कॉमा मैम, अपोस्ट्रोफीज आप ही ने पढ़ा है मैम पूरा, अपोस्ट्रोफीज, where is the comma, where is the full stop, you need to know. If you don't know, then entire thing goes haywire. So ma'am, what do I say, it's just been a blessing ma'am to have this occasion to so मैम, बहुत सारे बच्चे यहाँ पर हैं आपके, जो आपके स्टूडेंट्स हैं. तो गाइस प्लीज आप लोग थोड़ा कुछ बोल लो यार, मैं इतना नहीं बोल रहा हूँ. जैसे चला
तो
सर
इनको
है
किसी ने
राइट.
रोका है? Why are they not on camera?
गाइस कैमरा ऑन करो अपना, ये क्या है, क्या तरीका है ये.
Why are they not on camera?
मैम आप
गाइस प्लीज.
अटेंडेंस लेना शुरू कीजिए, फिर एवरीवन विल स्विच ऑन.
सारा. अच्छा, अटेंडेंस लेना शुरू करूँ तब आएंगे क्यों? अटेंडेंस नहीं लेती है यहाँ पे, अटेंडेंस लेने देने थोड़ी आई हूँ.
इसको ही लेकर
अटेंडेंस
आते ना यहाँ पे.
जरूरत है.
No, ma'am, it is a recollection, ma'am. It is a recollection. It's wonderful, ma'am, to hear you again after almost half a decade. It's really wonderful, ma'am.
सौरभ, यहाँ की अटेंडेंस शायद कोर्ट में भी काम आती होगी, और वही कह रही हूँ, वहाँ एडजर्नमेंट नहीं लेना. अटेंडेंस का मतलब कभी कभी तो मुश्किल हो सकता है, समझ सकती हूँ, लेकिन अटेंडेंस का ये जो
जी
हवा
मैम.
है ना, दिस इज बेसिकली टू हैव अ डिसिप्लिन इन आवर ओन लाइव्स. और दूसरी चीज, अटेंडेंस
Yes, ma'am.
क्लास में आके हम बहुत कुछ सीखते हैं जो हम कोर्ट कचहरी में नहीं सीखते. दोनों बिल्कुल अलग हैं. The way we practice in courts is altogether different. We do not teach even ABC in our classes as to how the court procedures are actually implemented or processed. Excepting, yes, of course, of late we have started off with clinical courses, but even that just gives tip of the iceberg. उतनी सी information देता है. बाकी तो जीवन की रोजमर्रा की जितने भी उतार चढ़ाव हैं, वो आप लोगों को कोर्ट में ही पता चलते हैं, वहीं सीखते हैं.
मैम
लेकिन
बट इफ आई मे जस्ट इंटरजेक्ट मैम, सौरभ ने भी उसके बाद थोड़ा पढ़ाया है मैम. ही आल्सो बिकेम अ टीचर एट एनएलयू और समथिंग आई थिंक फॉर अ व्हाइल. सो एम आई इनकरेक्ट?
चेहरा देखा हुआ कहीं तो लग रहा है, मुझे नहीं
Yes,
पता अब कहाँ देखा है मैंने उसको उसके बाद.
ma'am.
सौरभ कहाँ पढ़ा
I have come to meet you, ma'am. I have come to meet you also, ma'am. A few days back only, just to have a courtesy meeting.
है? हाँ.
मैम
हाँ,
भक्त है मैम बच्चे सारे आपके.
अपने अपने भक्त बनो, अपने अपने जीवन के भक्त बनो, अपने अपने पेरेंट्स के भक्त बनो.
मैम मैं तो अपने गुरुओं का भक्त हूँ. मुझे तो इतना पता है कि आप सबसे जो चीजें मिली है.
गुरु बाद में आता है, पेरेंट्स पहले आते हैं. ठीक है.
मैम यही है मेरे पेरेंट्स दोनों, मम्मी भी और पापा भी, दोनों हैं यहाँ पर. हाँ
अच्छा,
आपको अगर
Then is
नमस्ते
writing
करके
for
पेरेंट्स
the
बुलाए तो
down.
ने
इंट्रोडक्शन हो
आपको
सकता है.
इस
मैं आपके पास
पेरेंट्स
लेकर आ
ने
जाऊंगा.
आपको राह दिखाई और ये इजाजत दी कि आप यहाँ आए, और फिर गुरु को बोलें कि आप मेरे गुरु हैं और आप, मैं आपका भक्त हूँ, तो आपको पहले उन्हीं को नमन करना है.
मैम आप
Then there is
सबको एक
a
साथ के मैम सारे
there is a,
मैम. हाँ धनंजय बोलो बोलो मैम. एक और स्टूडेंट आ गया आपका.
please ma'am. Hello ma'am. Ma'am, first parents are the first teachers and teachers are the second parents.
वाह, क्या बात है.
वाह 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 धनंजय वाह. मैम
अच्छी
ये
बात.
ऐसी
The
कोर्ट
equation
क्लास
about
में
parents and
के मार रहा
teachers.
है.
हमें भी तो बहुत कुछ सीखना है ना. अच्छी बात.
So, ma'am, this is
I'm really happy to hear that.
yes, ma'am. It is a fact, ma'am, that teachers are the second parents, ma'am. We learn a lot. See, this is my understanding that whatever we are, it is only because of parent, teachers, and society. This is a combination, inculcation, cumulative effect of all three, and the add-ons of our own self. And the main contribution is
धनंजय
of our
आजकल कहाँ पे? Please carry on. Please
ये
carry
मैम
on.
हाई कोर्ट सुप्रीम कोर्ट कर रहे हैं
no,
मेजर.
ma'am, कुछ नहीं
ये
बस
बड़ा वकील हो
just
गया मैम.
trying to become, ma'am, just trying to do something, कुछ हो जाए.
कुछ हो जाए, वो क्या है जो कुछ हो जाए?
In the sense that I'm just trying to be taking a small baby steps in profession to grow. I'm just doing जितना हो सकता है, I'm just trying.
जितना हो सकता है करना चाहिए, जितना हो सकता का भी अपनी जगह में एक असेसमेंट रहना चाहिए कि कहाँ पे जाके मुझे लगे कि अब मुझे अपने जो छोटे हैं, दाएं बाएं हैं, उनको मदद करनी है.
Yes.
ठीक है, खुद तो ग्रो करोगे ही. एक बड़ का पेड़ होता है ना, अपने नीचे किसी को ग्रो नहीं करने देता. ठीक है, प्रोफेशन में बहुत दिख रहा है. और ये है,
Yes,
ऐसा
ma'am.
नहीं बनना, ऐसा नहीं बनना.
Yes, certainly.
ठीक है,
नीम का
केसेस
पेड़
लेकर
बनो,
आओ
सबकी
धनंजय
दुआदारी
गुप्ता
करो,
जी,
खुद भी बढ़ो और आगो
और ब्रीफ करो
बाकी
मुझे.
लोगों
ठीक
को
है,
भी.
ब्रीफ करो मुझे लाला के केसेस. धनंजय जी, सौरभ जी, प्लीज गाइस, व्हाट आर यू
Yes,
डूइंग? Now these are friends. I get to meet them and regularly, and ma'am, they're absolutely fantastic. They've helped me a lot, and it's just really wonderful. So, अच्छा, तो ma'am, there is one
इजाजत है.
question actually.
हाँ, बोलो
Pardon, ma'am?
बोलो बोलो.
There is one question actually, ma'am, and also before taking that question, I just want to also, ma'am, introduce you to Challa sir. Challa sir is here. Challa sir, may I, sir, is your audio and video, sir, maybe just check that, sir. Wish you a very, very, very warm welcome, sir. Wish you a very good evening. Sir, sir, yes, sir, unmute.
Yeah, there's no power. Suddenly, power has gone. So I'm trying to figure
Sir,
out.
in code, you would have issued a contempt notice.
No,
Again.
no, I won't do that. Not have, my assistant is dutifully attending your course.
Sir.
So she has bunked office today.
Oh, sir, actually, sir, I just got to know, I think one of your assistants is, she's been a prior intern with us. Is Monica here? Monica, are you there?
See?
So we've started doing this. It's called a Vestralex winter internship. So we do two internship programs. One is called a Vestralex winter internship program. Ma'am, this is for you also, ma'am, and both of your guidance would be most valuable on this. So we do one winter internship program and we do one internship program, VIP and VWIP. So we call it VIP, very important people, winter Vestralex internship program. So we're trying to model this somehow on. There was this course from Harvard that I got to do, ma'am, and I dropped out. So I'm a Harvard online scholar dropout, but I did not get the certificate, so I don't know how much count. So she was one of the students with us, and I remember a very exceptional one for that matter of fact. As a matter of fact, Monica, I think we're going to introduce her also later, and she's going to introduce Chalasar today. So, but in the meanwhile, first I want to introduce both of you once Chalasar is again back here. So, ma'am, Chalasar has been, how do I say, he's been fundamental, ma'am. He came as, ma'am, I'll tell you how beautiful a person he is. So, one day we were having a class on Nyaya Shastra, and we were just trying to explore what exactly is the origin of Indian legal jurisprudence and everything. And so there is Mr. Vinod, sir. He is from Delhi, and he is one of my initial senior mentors in the profession. He is the person who actually, how do I say, who made me feel comfortable with respect to the legal field in Delhi. And so we were having a discussion with, there is Ila Deshpande, ma'am. She is daughter of Deshpande, sir. He's also justice in, I think, Telangana. I think Andhra Pradesh only he retired from. So during that class, we were having an interaction, and then I see Tella sir is also there, and I know Tella sir only as a senior advocate then. I don't know that he is also a former judge. Right, so we get Tella sir also on board. There is a discussion happening, elaborate discussion. I don't know what all is happening. Later, I got to know that oh, Tella sir is also a judge, and then then I just everything hit back to me that, ma'am, what you were mentioning, that don't become that person in your mind that you think that you are. That this is the level of humility and humbleness that is there. And Chala sir, Tiku ma'am, she is the person who introduced me to the concept of law. She is the person who taught me how to read alphabet by alphabet every single bit of law, and not just me, not just a lot of people present over here, but so many people that, sir, she's been fundamental. And criminal law, sir, it's amazing. One day I'll request Anju ma'am that you have to please take out some more time and you have to teach us criminal law as well. Some classes, ma'am, but some fundamental things you have to, ma'am. There have to be at least interpretation of statutes. That is just fundamental that you have.
I'll do that. I'll
So
do
now
that.
introductions are done. Now I have one joint question for you, and this joint question is by who's a lucky guy. His name is Mr. Kartike Kakkad. Kartike ji, do you want to ask this question from this exemplary panel that we have right now? Kartike, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Sir, my question is now, what are the most important skills that an advocate must develop to not succeed in the legal profession? वो स्किल्स इंपॉर्टेंट स्किल्स मैं मैम से ना पूछना चाहता हूँ कि क्या करना चाहिए, जैसे हम अभी अभी ना न्यू है तो मतलब प्रोफेशन में सक्सीड होने के लिए.
प्रोफेशन में सक्सीड करने के लिए क्या करना चाहिए? Alright. So, Chala sir, before we start the class and before we end Tiku ma'am's class, this is one question that Kartikeya ji has posed, and I request both of you to kindly just whatever little thoughts you want to share. And Chala sir, I request this because I can seek indulgence. At least I can try and seek extra indulgence from you for some extra time also today, sir, so that it may, even if it may just get a little extended. Also, most important for everyone. This is right now we are in the transition between the 99th class and the 100th class of the Vestralex free online community classes on law initiative. It's been 4 years that we've been doing this. I don't know how it started. We did the 10th class and I was told, Keshav, you've done enough, end it. And we are still here. It's all of your blessings. So please, this is a fundamental question. Kartikeya, क्या सवाल पूछा तुमने सही टाइम?
मैं बीच में ही माफी मांग रही हूँ. जस्टिस कोदंड, ढेर सारा नमस्कार आपको, आदर और सत्कार. I would certainly want you to deliver a lecture on, because I just learned through Kesha that you were opening up on jurisprudence of Indian knowledge system. And now that we have started incorporating some units in our jurisprudence course, I would certainly wish to bother you at some point of time to deliver a lecture and address our faculty so that we get to know a different perception and we learn from you as to how do you incorporate the Indian thought process in our curricula. How do you suggest that? So once we are able to understand your perspective, perhaps it would be better formulated in our course coverage and would get reflected. So I'll certainly bother you at some point of time, sir. I'll take your number and contact details through Kesha. But at this juncture,
Certainly, ma'am.
with
Certainly, ma'am.
with
Ma'am,
reference to what are the...
we'd thought, ma'am. I know how difficult it was to get your time. So actually, ma'am is currently also the dean of law faculty, and law faculty students are, ma'am and sir, they are so fantastic. Earlier, she was dealing with us. We were the ones creating ruckus for her, and now today also, I don't know, not today, but few days back also, I see that there is a new batch of guys. Now they are creating some ruckus every single year. Law students are law students, ma'am. Nothing has changed, I think. Are they still sitting over there?
Keshav, you can see in my office.
Oh, amazing, ma'am, amazing.
With reference to this question, just 2 lines. We need to have conceptual clarity and command on language. For sure. Understanding the facts and then arguing. Beyond that, whatever is required, I believe Justice Kodan would be much more enlightening and giving you that capacity that how can you put your best foot forward. With that, I believe I need to take a leave. And sir, I excuse myself because I've got some people in my office and I need to address them. Thank you
sir.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
I'll certainly bother you. Thank
No,
you, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. I am Bharathalakshmi from AP.
Ji, ji. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
Have
thank
a
you so
pleasure.
much. Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Keshavji, before that, yeah, sorry for interruption, sir. Thank you so much for having Kodanram sir class also today. We are very much blessed with all your encouragement. Keshavji, your voice is not
You
audible,
should just
sir.
unmute yourself.
So yes, sir. So actually, Bharat ma'am, there is a very interesting thing that I want to share with Tala sir also right now. So what I will
Yeah.
do